What about now, Jerry?
There you are. There you
Okay. Okay, guys. Okay, so I'm just going to start over. We've lost some time with State Senator Dan Sullivan. We are talking to candidates this year. Um, Early voting is going on now. And of course, Election Day is next Tuesday, November the 8th. The question that I was asking State Senator Sullivan was, I have heard and the people have said that it is your fault that defund the library has come along. So, can you tell us how you found out about anything going on at the library? Was that something that you just went and dug up and decided you were unhappy about and started to talk about?
It's been a national issue. You've seen many states it's come up. Started in West Virginia, if you'll remember, with
Okay.
the governor's race there. That became an issue, primarily at schools, but also with books and parents' control, mostly about what control parents have over what their kids see and read and learn in school. And we had people here in Jonesboro who uh, were asking questions about the books in the library being sexually explicit. It came to me not as a people want to blame it on the LGBTQ. It's my fault. They had a display there, and I got mad, and others got mad, and that's just not the case. I don't know that that will convince anybody, but it's not the case with me. When parents came to me and said that there was sexually explicit material in the library, whether it's guy on guy, guy on girl, girl on girl, girl on guy. However, it was sexually explicit. And people began asking the library to move those books, not to ban them, not to take them out, just move the books. And they came to talk to me, but of course, this is not a state senate issue. But as a concerned citizen and a citizen of Craighead County, I am concerned about that and got behind the movement to work with the library and on some of those issues. The mask issue was a big deal too,
Mm-hmm.
and I got involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
That was a state issue to some extent. But to say I'm the catalyst for it, I would say that the library board is the catalyst. The library board has refused to put material on their website. That's why they've been FOIA'd so much. People complain, and I think that in the debate last week, the debater complained that they're busy with FOIA, answering thousands. Well, all they have to do is put that information on Facebook or put it out there publicly. So how does one complain that the public asking for public information and you're the cause of the problem? That doesn't sound right. Same thing with the explicit material. People brought up explicit material. The board said, we're not moving it. We're leaving it in the children's section. And I think that's that's what the catalyst is, whether we move it or not. And that's will continue to be an ongoing issue. However, there are dual issues. Once people began looking at that material, people start asking questions. Can we see the budget? And can we dig into some of the details there? And as people looked into more detail, they saw several issues there. Now, are they linked? Yes. Are they separate? Yes. And right now, we're tackling the financial side of this issue.
Okay, so um, there was a citizen who came to you
Several.
because,
Hmm.
as their state senator, as a representative for the people, then what people do is bring to you concerns, things that they think you should be doing. So, okay, we understand that.
Well, I'll just add a little bit more to that. People know that as a citizen, I'm outspoken as a citizen too. When my kids were in school, if I had a problem with the school, I was very open to going and talking to teachers and administrators. And the same thing, in the churches we go to, I get involved in things, and people came seeking my help, and I was willing and open to helping.
Okay, so how did we get from library book display to the catch term defund the library?
Yeah, I made that statement. Somebody labeled me as trying to defund, and I made the statement, I'm not here to defund. Now, if you want to look at the definition in the dictionary, The definition I was referring to was remove all the funds from and shut them down. That was never my intent. And when that comment was made, if you listen to my detractors, I hate women, I hate kids, I hate the library, I hate school, and I kick puppy dogs. That's kind of the description that's out there, and it's just not true. Um, but that's where that came from, and I've never sought to take all the money away. When you look at how libraries are funded throughout the state, I think it's out there that 70% of the libraries are at 1 mil, and I've done the research and looked at research. People say, well, we need a $7 million, $8 million surplus. By the way, they got 1.2 million deposited today or yesterday,
Who
I
got
think.
1.2 million deposited today?
I think today or yesterday, maybe or tomorrow, but we
Our
got word
public
that it's
library.
yeah, yeah. They write a check to the library the 15th of every month.
Okay.
It's just they get a big check in the fall.
Okay.
But that's where that defund term came from. But we have a 7 million, $7.5 million surplus now. If you look at other libraries who have countywide systems, this idea of what was it called, forward funding, has now been completely debunked. And even the library attorney agrees that they don't need that large of a surplus. They need operating funds and they need a reserve fund, but there's no need to have a $7 million surplus.
Okay. So I want to talk to you also about teacher pay.
Okay.
You took hits on teacher pay because people said, as a former teacher, you should know that teachers need to be paid more. They don't understand why teachers aren't paid more. And they want to know why you can't get them more money. And when I say you, I mean our state government.
Yeah, sure.
So going into election day, what do you have to say about teacher pay?
Well, first of all, there was this. It all began when some wanted a special session for a $4,000 raise, and those of us in the Senate and people that were informed knew that there was state money, federal money out there to create that bridge. I think it was like $1.2 billion. There was a problem that schools prioritized projects over teachers. They wanted to put a new air conditioner in the gym. They wanted to do other uh, physical improvements to properties. And the Senate said, no, we're not going to do that. You're going to prioritize teachers first. So we had a big meeting and we told schools, stop and now send us in. If you have encumbered money,
Mm-hmm.
encumbered meaning you've already spent it, then tell us why you can't pull that money back, because we're not going to approve any more money until you give teachers a $5,000 bonus. And as a result of that, I think somewhere around 75% of the schools in the state ended up giving their teachers a $5,000 bonus. Some did it in a couple of payments, some did it in one. I know Valley View did not get that locally because they have their funding is different than Jonesboro or Nettleton and others. But our other schools got that $5,000 bonus. And just, I think about a month ago in a Senate meeting, the Senate came to an agreement with the House to provide at least a $4,000 raise going into next year. So when people say, I hate teachers and I hate schools, again, it's just not true. If you say it enough, people believe it. But we gave them not only the bonus, but they will get at least a $4,000 raise going forward. And we gave them probably the best insurance package that teachers have had in quite some time. Now, a lot of teachers don't use that because they have a spouse and they go through their spouse, but we gave a significant bonus, or not a bonus, a significant improvements in teacher insurance. But that's part of being a senator is
Mm-hmm.
people get upset,
Yes.
and I understand that, but it's just not true.
So of those two issues that I wanted to focus on, because people in Jonesboro are very concerned about these. Um, they both deal with money.
Hmm.
Do you think that's the bottom line in any election? That the people are concerned about their money, where it's going, who's using it, and how it is being spent?
And that's pretty much the primary job of your legislature. We are responsible for how taxpayers' money is spent. So when it comes into us, how do we disperse it? um, and how do we use it. Matter of fact, I posted today, and people might see it on my Facebook page exactly how much came in and how much goes out, uh, and it's very informative. I think safety, which includes a lot of our police, is like 2% of our state budget. Education, I think it was somewhere around 40. DHS is somewhere around 38 to 40. And the rest of the money, not counting highways, but the rest of the money is, that last 20% is dished around to all the other needs. We have
Hmm.
prisons, your police, law enforcement, fire. It's just a very small portion of our budget. So yeah, if the question is, are people, is that a big part of the election? Well, yeah, that's our job,
Hmm.
is to manage how our money is spent. And that's kind of why I was upset with the library issue. We don't, at the state level, if an agency has a surplus, we pull that money back and it becomes a part of next year's budget. And if
Okay.
they have 5 million in or 6, 7 million in the bank, well, next year we're not going to give you that much because you already have it. However, the way the library is funded, the library board can't stop the money from coming in. So whatever they're getting, and if they're getting a million, over a million a year in surplus, that's perpetual. It's just going to keep on
Keep
going.
on going. Okay.
The only way to change that is through a referendum. Takes 100 people signing it, and then the people get to vote, which is a great deal. And if they want to vote in, if this issue passes, and they want to vote in 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 years to raise it again, it's the will of the people.
So, Senator Sullivan, are you or are you not a proponent for increased teacher pay and for our public libraries?
Yeah, I'm absolutely for increasing our teacher pay. I've said that multiple times. Been in the legislature now 8 years. I've voted for every increase they've gotten. Matter of fact, I think it was in 2020 we voted for $1,000 a year increase for 4 years in a
Okay.
row. So yeah,
So
as
during your time in the state senate, you have consistently voted for increases in teacher pay
and insurance
and in
and
insurance.
retirement.
Okay.
We changed their retirement plan at their request, and put someone new over that retirement system. Again, the teachers actually vote for that. We don't. We have a little bit in how it's moved around, but that's what teachers do. But we have always gone by what I have always gone by what those recommendations are.
Okay. Right.
Say about the library?
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, I'm all for a library. I think they provide a great resource. I think our community has benefited tremendously from our library. I think libraries are in the same position that many businesses are in post-COVID. They're trying to reinvent themselves. Your business, you had to go about doing business differently. And I think the advent of the internet change what libraries look like. People no longer go there, very seldom go there for research anymore. People often don't go there to get their books. So that's changed what the library looks like. And the library needs to reinvent themselves, and they're trying. But as the spokesperson for the library said, they need to send out surveys to find out what the community wants
Once.
instead of just, well, we're going to do Zumba, we're going to do knitting, and we're going to do
Right.
yoga, and we're going to do these things with no data as to
Who wants
how it
those
works.
things?
You'd never stay in business as a realtor if you didn't know what your community wanted by asking questions, surveying them, and how you sell your product. And the library is no different. If they've got a product they need to sell, then they need to change it, and ask. Then the people get to say,
Hmm.
well, we want a library that's actually a community center,
Right.
uh, or a library that, whatever that looks like. But they haven't done that. And in the last few interviews that the library spokesperson has done, they have said very plainly that the library has no plan. They had no plan in the past, they have no plan in the future, and they have no plan going forward. And I don't know why I would keep dumping water into a bucket that had a hole in it. You'll never fill it up. And it's the same thing with the library. Until they have a plan and they know who they are and what their goals are and what they want to achieve, I don't know why we'd keep funding them at the level that gives them $1 million surplus a year.
Okay. I want to pivot a little bit
All right.
to something that's really close to my heart. So you were a huge sponsor for the 2020 NAACP Freedom Fund Gala here in Craighead County. And we appreciate that and we thank you for that. During midterm elections, that is some of the lowest voter turnout that we have. And here we are, midterm elections. And because lots of us don't turn out, then the statistics show more that Black and Brown constituents don't show up in hordes to vote in midterm elections either. Why was it important for you to support the NAACP? And why is it important for Black and Brown people and our BIPOC communities to be involved in politics and to get involved in midterm elections?
Yeah, you're the first one that ever asked me. And, I trust you.
Mhm.
And, you came to me and said, it's time for us to start working together and find areas of common interest that we can do to help our community. And you said that this is a good starting place. And I agree. And I think that that's a very important thing. And we have a number. I think Iverson Jackson and
Yes.
Colonel Todd, have the coalition, African American Coalition, which is pretty much a Republican, African American Republican group that's trying to grow uh, members of the minority community into a more conservative view. So I've been working with them for a few years. So I
Hmm.
welcome the opportunity to be able to support that organization. I trust you, and as I trust, I've met with several of our
Hmm.
ministers in town, and I trust them, and I think they want to do what's right for our community, as do I. And I look forward to continuing to go down that direction.
What are some things that you want anyone who sees this now or sees this later before election day? What are some issues that you want to bring to our attention?
Well, I think, I've been really involved in changing and reducing regulations. You talk about helping minority community members. When we did the things for telehealth or advanced practice nurses and the things we did with COVID to try to keep our businesses open, those helped everybody. And so I hope we can find those areas of interest to come together on. Second thing I'll say is that, I have an opponent um, who is self-described as a progressive Democrat.
I would also like to say before you get into that, that we have been in contact with your opponent's campaign and we have not heard back from them. So if anyone's out there and can get in touch with her, we would love to interview her and have her on here as well. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, because I'd like to hear what she has to say about this. They have a newsletter out for the month of November 2022, and it is called the Arkansas Progressive Democratic Caucus Fall Election Issue, and they put out a 12-page memo. And let me just read to you uh, what it says on their Building Grassroots Foundations. It says discussions between Green Party organizers and Democratic Socialists started around building a red and green alliance. And they began discussions around how they can build an electoral base. Now, folks, the way I read that they're progressives and people that follow national politics understand that the progressives is the left side of the Democrat Party, like the Tea Party is the right side of the Republican Party, so the progressives are out there on the left, and they're aligning themselves with the Green Party and Democratic Socialists, starting to build a red and green alliance. Now, folks, that red does not stand for Republican. That red apparently stands for communist. So here we have my opponent on her Facebook page saying that they're building a Green Party organization with Democratic Socialists around a red and green alliance. You know, and I wondered why, when we had the debate, why my opponent did not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I think I know why now. And at the back of this newsletter, they list the people that they are endorsing, and you're going to have Mr. Garrett Barnes on, I think, soon.
Yes, Garrett will be on. He's running for JP here in
And
Craighead County, and
I
he'll
think
be on
he
at
and
7.
I think he says identifies as a progressive Democrat. And I'd like to understand, and if I'm wrong, I'm open to correct it. But what does that red stand for? Uh, just like to know, and I hope Chenoa, my opponent, will come on and talk about what her positions are on these things. You know, they talk about guaranteed income and some of the issues at the library. Every child, the freedom to read, they call it, which means a child could be is fine for them to have pornography. She says that children and minor children, 10, 12, and 11 years old, who go on overnight trips with the band or their sports team ought to be in rooms with their their gender ID, not their biological gender. You know, that's what, when you talk about the Green Party and Social Democrats and the Red Communist Party, I'm just interested in knowing, explain some of those things to me. And Garrett should explain them. As he stand for putting kids, you know, he works for Jonesboro Schools. And when he sends kids on trips, is he going to put them with their gender ID or their biological gender? I've never heard him address that. I'm also interested in hearing, it appears that he cut an ad at the Jonesboro schools with his Jonesboro name tag on, advertising his um, uh, campaign. I don't know that that's legal.
Okay.
And I'd be interested in hearing, and it sure appears to be a picture with a student at Jonesboro schools. But I think there's, you know, all that to say, there's a tremendous difference in the positions of myself and my Democrat opponent. And that's up and down the Democrat and Republican line. I know I've upset people, teachers,
Yes.
upset you a few times,
Yes. Yes.
upset
Did y'all
people.
hear that? Dan Sullivan has upset me.
Yeah, and you know that's just the nature of the beast. When you're a politician, you make votes, and when you take a vote, it's not a maybe or I wish I could do this, but I'm going to vote this way. Yeah, I'm very clear on what I believe, and I don't leave people out wondering my position on things, and that angers people. Get upset. You know, I have people saying on my Facebook page, they'll say, "You don't listen." Well, I listen, but that's not what they want. They want me to do what they
They
say.
say. Okay.
And as a, you know, what we do is we put out our platform, we show up on shows like this, we talk about our platform, and then if we're elected, you carry out the things that you said you would do. And I think, you know, I understand that that's what a representative democracy is. We say what we believe, people vote for us, and then we go and carry out those things that we stood for and said in a public forum.
So, is your question to anybody that has been endorsed in this newsletter, are you communist?
I think the question is, are you comfortable being endorsed by
Okay.
a group that is identifies with the Red Party and the Green Party and Social Democrats? Not are you a member of it? Because I know I'm endorsed occasionally by people I don't agree with,
Hmm.
but I'm just the best one sitting out there.
Okay.
So I'm not surprised that people are on there, but I would not take an endorsement from some, just as I wouldn't take some money from some because I don't want to affiliate with them. And I think, you know, this is a pretty radical position. If you're being endorsed by the Communist Party of Arkansas or the Red Party, I don't know what the Red Party is other than communist, and the Social Democrats and the Green Party, which are socialist, if you're being endorsed by them, you ought to come out to the people just as uh, people are doing right now. And there are several candidates on there from Craighead County for JPs and city council and for state senate. I think it's a valid question to ask, how far along that line are you?
Is the word communism, that's a scary word. Are you using that to scare the voter?
I'm just telling it like it is. I mean, that's one of the reasons people get upset with me is I tell it like it is. What else? And if somebody wants to come on and say, well, red here means Republican, not communist, okay. If they want to say red means, you know, we're part of the redcoats back in the Civil War or the Revolutionary War, explain that. I think the people of Craighead County, as you said earlier, it's a critically important election. And we're have divergent paths we're going down. And as if you're going to go down the red path or the conservative path, then people need to know. And people need to come on your program, on other programs, and just say, this is what it means. I mean, we heard from my opponent what her platform is.
Hmm.
This is the first time, and I suspected that she was pretty far left, as I suspected based upon what she had said in previous debates and previous things. Now she's a part of this. As a matter of fact, she is the, what is this called here? She has um, the main part of the newsletter is about her. She is their spotlight candidate, is my opponent. And I think if you're the spotlight candidate, there it is, member spotlight, Genoa Summers. And if you're going to be the spotlight for the progressive Democrats, I think you owe it to the people to come and say what they are and explain to us what red means and
Okay.
green.
Okay. Well, hopefully, Miss Summers will contact us and we can get those questions answered
And
for
if
you.
I'm wrong, I'll come back on and apologize uh,
He will come back on and apologize.
to the audience and to you
Okay.
for bringing falsehoods onto your show.
Thank you. One last thing that I want to talk to you about is I'm sure you were aware of what happened with Shadrax and the owner of Shadrax when a list was put out about who signed something. And there were a lot of people in our community who were calling for boycotting them, shutting them down. And it looks like people call for that based on someone's personal uh, beliefs. How is it, do you think, that you, as a Republican state senator, have to reach across the aisle and either battle with or against ideas that you may not agree with, but then still help sponsor bills with people who you just disagreed with yesterday? Why is it that you all can do it down in Little Rock in Washington, but right here at home, our community, instead of coming together, seems to be hell bent on pulling each other apart?
Yeah, I think that group of people is small. I think the people, but they're loud and they're very active and engaged. But I think most of our community isn't that way. And it's no, probably not much different than it is in Little Rock, with other senators and people, House members. There are some of us have very significant. I think you're interviewing Monty Hodges.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, Monty and I are friends, and Monty said some things on my Facebook page I didn't like very much,
Hmm.
but that's his right to do.
Hmm.
And I didn't say anything to Monty. We remain good friends. My opponent really chastised me and got after me for running legislation that reformed child care. And here you've heard all the stories and things, and here he is trying to reform. Well, it happened that bill passed with one dissenting vote uh, from all the House and the Senate. Everybody agreed, but someone wanted to pull something out, try to find something to stir it up, and that has happened on a couple of pieces of legislation, and it happened on more companies than just Shadrax. Shadrax was the one that was popular, came out there, but it happened to individuals, it happened to people, and I think it happened to some extent on both sides. I don't think this was a one-sided issue at all. I think people on both sides are calling my opponent names, calling her a liar and disingenuous, however you want to describe that. I think it's going on both sides, but again, I think it's a minority of the people. And we had people like you coming out and saying, look, folks, let's put this aside. This is a good business. Let them have their
Hmm.
business and
Let them
let's
have their
separate these
business.
issues.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've got Garrett Barnes coming on in just a little bit. And so I'm going to get ready to interview him and probably to ask him that question that you just asked. So, State Senator, I thank you for coming on. You want to tell the people about Election Day, early
Yeah,
voting,
yeah. Early voting is going on now down at the what's the
the annex on
Annex Center, yeah,
Jefferson?
on Jefferson. I think they open at 7:30 or so, and they stay open until late. So go vote. You were talking about minorities not voting, and that's so true. Um, Vote for people that you know that have, whether you agree with them on 100% of the things, that's never going to happen. Go out there and vote for people that you know you can call and talk to, people that come on programs like this and answer difficult questions and get to the point. But get out there and let's make this turnout a historic event for voters. But thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
And thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.